Florida tomatoes. They're ripe for the picking. So look for fresh from Florida tomatoes where you shop and support our state. See more seasonal produce at followfreshfromflorida.com.
Ah, what a day to be a Florida tomato. Sunny, warm, ooh, and expected afternoon showers. I am feeling...
Vendors who did work on it after they bought it. And after it was purchased, one company installed the vinyl, and one company apparently installed all the electronics, the lighting equipment, and so on. On May 31st, the Explorer was put into service. On that day, it was driven for one shift by one officer. Second shift, another officer got in it, went to his first call, and while there, it almost immediately burst into flames. And so there's no question that there appears to have been something wrong with this vehicle, because it blew up at about 150 miles. So the complaint does contain a whole bunch of photographs and point out that the odometer had a reading of about 150 miles. Now, here is the thing. It says that the insurance company steps in and became subrogated to all the rights of recovery that Westchester Township possesses against defendants. And they also point out that the Township Police Department had to incur an expense of $500 for a deductible. And they then notified Ford Motor Company of the defect in the car. And they said, since being so notified, defendants have not taken any steps to attempt to resolve the defect or the claims alleged herein. So they say we contacted Ford. Ford said, don't know what to do, we can't do it. Okay. So sub C at paragraph 52 says the defect posed a safety risk to drivers of the Explorer, passengers of the Explorer, and others. So the defect they keep referring to is whatever led to the overheating, which they say they're not quite sure what it says. Now, here is one of the things where I think this complaint goes off the rails. I've never seen this in a complaint before. Practicing law for 32 years, I've drafted too many complaints to count. I've never seen this. As detailed further below, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, is replete with complaints of smoking vehicles and engine fires that often result in total loss of the vehicle. That paragraph is irrelevant. They're basically saying that people complain to NHTSA about cars that smoke and burn. Okay, what's it got to do with Ford Motor Company? What's it got to do with your client? What's it got to do with this vehicle? And you're going to say, well, Steve, obviously you're setting something up. Well, I suppose you could, but this isn't like a novel where we're trying to set the scene. Every allegation or complaint is supposed to be directly relevant to the claims you're making. And so someone could argue and say, that's irrelevant to this case, that people complain to NHTSA about smoking cars and burning cars. I hope they do. I think that's what NHTSA's job is, to take those complaints. Do any of them involve Ford Motor Company? Well, the next paragraph one does. Here's an example. One complaint filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration detailed an individual's experience while driving a 2017 Ford Edge. This case doesn't involve a 2017 Ford Edge, does it? So how is another type of vehicle catching on fire relevant to this one? Does the Ford Edge use the same powertrain as the Explorer at issue in this case? Paragraph 56. Another example from the NHTSA details an individual's experience while driving a 2012 Ford Taurus. In that instance, the driver was sitting at a stop sign when the engine caught fire spontaneously and burned the top of the engine compartment of the vehicle. Another example details an individual's experience while driving a 2019 Lincoln MKC manufactured by Ford. Again, all of these cases are irrelevant. Some people might point out that they're hearsay. And some people might point out that, why are they here? Why are you dragging all this stuff out? Because I assure you that cars catch on fire from time to time for all kinds of reasons. And it can be a manufacturing defect, it could be a design defect, or it could be that one of these people here just mentioned had taken their car to a backyard mechanic, did a bad job on it, and screwed something up. We don't know. Because I'm sure you know, if you poked around, that each one of these complaints potentially could have led to an investigation. Did they? And if so, what was the results of the investigation? Didn't do that.
Hasn't been doing that. I hasn't, yes.
Is that one in this case? No, it's not. Another example details individual experience while driving a 2014 Ford F-150 with his children in the vehicle. Paragraph 60. Another example, an individual experience while driving a 2014 Ford Escape. A Ford Escape. Another example from NHTSA details individual experience while driving a 2016 Ford F-150 where the driver was just 5 miles from his destination. Oh boy, that sounds horrible. In addition to the vehicle fires that occurred in vehicles manufactured by Ford, Ford issued an underhood fire recall in May 2022 on 2021 Ford Expeditions and 2021 Lincoln Navigators. Did they do it on the Explorer? Apparently not. I'm assuming if they had, they would have mentioned it, right? In November of 2022, Ford also issued a recall over fire risks from possible cracked fuel injectors on Bronco Sport and Escape SUVs, neither of which are Explorers. And those recalls were in fact limited to the Bronco Sport and the Escape SUVs. So why are all of these paragraphs in here of unrelated cases? I'm not quite sure. I'm sure the average person who skims this will go, wow, Ford's got a lot of vehicles going up in flames. I can do the exact same search for Chrysler, General Motors, and finding vehicle engine fires for a lot of manufacturers. The fact that a Ford Bronco Sport was recalled for a bad fuel injector does not have anything to do with this Ford Explorer owned by police department going up in flames. Zero. So some people might note that this appears to be extraneous pleading, meaning it's stuck with the pleadings doesn't belong there. Then it goes into another section. Ford and the dealership knew or should have known the Explorer was defectively designed and or manufactured. And this is an important distinction. If I build something and I give it to you and it bursts into flames, that could happen for a variety of reasons, one of which could be bad design, which would hint that yours probably isn't the only one, because if I manufacture all these things to the same specs and the overall design is bad, many of them would have the same problem. Whether that problem leads to fires is nothing altogether. But the point is that if it's defectively designed, you look at the designs and you look at the fires, is there a connection there? If it's a defective manufacturing process or defective manufacturing parts, that might be a one-off, or it might be a couple of different things. But again, to say that they knew or should have known means that if it's a design problem, they should have spotted it. Of course, that would make more sense. But if there's a one-off part in there sent to them by a vendor, it's a hard-to-spot problem. Should they have known that? Well, the question is whether they knew or should have known. They're getting here at negligence, okay, and whether or not Ford or the dealership has got a duty to notify you that they've sold you something that's defective. They say in light of the history of Ford vehicle fires, defendants knew or should have known that the Explorer had the defect. It could spontaneously catch fire while being used for the purposes to which they're intended by defendants. I'm not a logic professor, but I do actually know one. And I'm going to tell you right now that I said to him, Tom, there's a whole bunch of different vehicles that have nothing to do with this case that caught on fire. And then I make the statement, in light of the history of Ford vehicle fires, defendants, Ford and the dealership knew or should have known that the Explorer had the defect. What's the problem with logic? Well, none of the examples you gave were of this type of vehicle in this year. So how would they draw the conclusion that they know something when their sample size is zero? Additionally, and on information belief, Ford would have gained comprehensive and exclusive knowledge about the potential for these issues during their designing, manufacturing, and testing of the Explorer. Well, that's true. If in fact that, this happened, then they would have had information. But on information and belief, adequate pre-release analysis of the design, engineering, and manufacturing of the exhaust system and or other engine or vehicle components of the Explorer would have revealed to Ford the design, engineering, and or manufacturing of the Explorer created the defect and the possibility of unreasonable high temperatures in the catalytic converter and or other parts of the engine block. Sorry. Ford and the dealership made representations about the character, quality, and safety of the Explorer, so to get there into some other things. But We can start with a product liability claim. You have to understand that not every state has got a product liability cause of action. You can then go after them for harm it's caused. The question is whether or not you can prove that this product was in fact dangerous when shipped by Ford Motor Company. And they say that they can do that upon information and belief. They do claim that the Explorer was defectively designed, and so to make that allegation, and of course, if it goes that far, they'll get to try it. Meanwhile, they did say count 2 is negligence. I mentioned before that negligence arises from a duty. You have a duty to someone, breach that duty, they're harmed by that breach, and you can owe the damages. The best example I can give you is I have a duty to drive my car in a safe and reasonable manner. So if I run a red light and plow into your car and harm you, I've been negligent in how I'm driving my car. That would be an auto negligence claim. And that would be my breach of that duty and harm you. So they're saying here that Ford Motor Company and the dealership had a duty to not design, manufacture, and distribute vehicles capable of spontaneous engine fires. That's written backwards. They should actually say they've got a duty to design safe and reliable transportation. But I guess they want to put it that way and say they have a duty to not design one that bursts into flames. I guess they can do that, but they're going to have a harder time, I think, finding case law that says that, yes, you've got a duty to not design a vehicle that unreasonably overheats and let it convert. They also say there's a failure to warn, and they're talking about that Ford should have warned somebody that this is going to happen. Which assumes they had prior notice. And I've got no problem with that. If, in fact, Ford knew about this and you can prove it, then them not explaining that to people might be something that you can do. The question is, can you prove that out at this time? Now, here's the thing. My video the other day, I said specifically that the Lemon Law claim was not the strongest claim there because it appears to not apply. However, I said what they should probably do is be going under some UCC claims, Uniform Commercial Code, which applies to sale of goods. And breach of warranty is the obvious one. So I would have said breach of warranty, express, breach of warranty, implied warranty, merchantability. And then I would have said breach of warranty of fitness for a particular purpose, which is the only one of those three they put. Count 4 at paragraph 103. Breach of the implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. And they talk about how that the police department went to the dealership and said, we need this vehicle to be a police vehicle. And then Ford knew that because Ford sells police vehicles. And the dealership knew that, and so they got this vehicle for that purpose. And because they knew that purpose, it should be held to a higher standard. And that's fine. That's not a bad argument to make. However, breach of express warranty is somehow lacking here. It's not here. Ought to be. Because as you know, when you buy a brand new vehicle in America, you get a glove box warranty. The glove box warranty is what says that this vehicle is covered for 3 years, 36,000 miles, or whatever. And that description of a warranty is called a glove box warranty. It is an express warranty made by both the manufacturer and possibly by the seller. However, most sellers disclaim them, but it still does speak to Ford Motor Company that if you read the warranty book that came with this Explorer, it'll say if there's a defect in materials or workmanship, we will, in essence, remedy that for you at no cost to you once you notify us of it. So when the car goes up in smoke and they notify Ford is duty bound to honor that warranty, unless it didn't arise because of the defect in materials or workmanship. So it's possible Ford's going to take a position to say it's not our fault, it's whoever tampered with the electronics and the wiring in this vehicle. That could be what they're going to say. I'm just pointing that out. The allegation is so easy to make, and that's the easiest of the warranties to prove. Because you can point to the glove box and go, before that car burned, there was a warranty in there, which you guys can get a copy of because you guys are the ones who printed it, that says defects, materials, workmanship, you will remedy at no cost to us. Boom. Breach of express warranty. It's not pled. The implied warranty of merchantability is that an object will do what you expect it to do. And for a vehicle, it's safe and reliable transportation. A vehicle that goes up in smoke and will no longer run is presumably not safe to do, and it's certainly not reliable. And so you've got to make that argument also. But instead, they made the breach of implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose, which means that they have to actually put in the proofs now that they made their needs known, and that the seller then stepped up and said, yes, I can meet those needs. The implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose, though, usually speaks to the seller, the dealership, not the manufacturer. And sometimes you might be able to push it back to get it up to the manufacturer. But of course, the person who's buying this vehicle probably didn't speak to anybody before. And the law says specifically that for this to work, you've got to make your needs known to the person you're dealing with, and they've got to be helping you when you rely on them. And so Ford's going to have a very easy time to step away from this one and go, we didn't know. We sell this vehicle with this package, but somebody then took it and modified it. And obviously, they never told us what they were looking for. They spoke to people in the dealership. And the dealerships aren't owned by us. They're just people we sell cars to. So if anybody asked me about this complaint before it was filed, they'd say, oh, they're missing 2 counts. Implied warranty of merchantability, express warrants, but no one asked. Deceptive trade practices at count 5, and they're saying that the actions here amounted to Ford and the dealership not providing the benefits that were promised. A few other things as far as that goes. And so there's a decent allegation we made there that the buyers didn't get what they bargained for. And then finally, the lemon law under Ohio, and I pointed this out in my video, I'm not going to get heavily into it, but Ohio's lemon law, as most state lemon laws do, has its own definitional section. In that definitional section, it says specifically what a motor vehicle is. And it appears to be an attempt to limit these cases to, in essence, people who buy a car for personal, family, or household use. And so a police department doesn't buy a car for personal, family, or household use. And I'm paraphrasing that, only because I don't have it in front of me. But the Ohio Attorney General appears to believe that's what's going on here also, because I found that on the Ohio Attorney General's own website. And the lemon laws were designed to take care of average people. So they often don't apply to commercial vehicles, they often don't apply to RVs, they often don't apply to motorcycles, despite the fact that a motorcycle is a vehicle powered by a motor that goes down the roadway and is licensed as such. And yet, some states go, well, no, it doesn't cover them, just because that's something they decided to exclude. People often ask, do they cover boats? Generally speaking, no. But of course, boats don't go down the road, generally speaking, the way that automobiles do. So that's my take on this lawsuit. And if you stuck to this video this long, I salute you for your endurance. My timer stopped so long ago, it got bored and fell asleep. So there you go. Questions or comments, put them below. This talks about serving up perfectly golden coconut shrimp in a bowl of or on the side, only at Northern Vegan.
People share their creepiest and terrifying paranormal experiences. Please like and subscribe to support us. I was always fascinated by haunted places, and I wanted to masquerade in a lamp. The place was a convent that burned down, and all the workers were trapped inside. This one night in by myself, my parents had already gone to bed, and my door was shut and my lamp was still on. I laid down, turned the lamp off, and tried falling asleep. Somewhere halfway through the night, I get a soft nudge in my foot of bed. I look up, and at the foot of my bed, I see a large-sized dog that looked like a cross between a Labrador and a husky, and my staring straight at me. It couldn't be my other dogs because the door was closed and they both snuffles and were short dogs, but also looked like the size of a great colorful baby tray. This dog was just sitting at the end of the bed and staring straight at us all. I fell as fast asleep as I can. The next morning I wake up and the door was still closed like the night before. I tell my parents to go and believe me and say it was probably just a dream, which to this day they still joke about now. Last year, during my mother's birthday, we got her a dog to replace her dog because due to tumor in 2021 a week before my birthday. A couple of weeks, Mom finds out that the crossover breed is a Labrador and Husky that's fully black and gives Mom and I soft nudges all the time. And so, is this just a coincidence or not? The house we live in now is the house we moved in at. That house and everything is happening. The switches on, the TV turns on, and at night when everybody's asleep, and I always sense that somebody is watching me in my room 24/7. We live out of town now, so it's a lot more quieter and peaceful. From the beginning, something has always been at the house. For the fact that this house has also been moved from a different town about 2 hours away. Like, if you believe me, when these things have really happened. Oh my God, I've seen these stories. I've seen heavy sliding doors and other scenes. Most recent close to mine is a photo I took at a store, but I'll tell a different one here. I worked at a fast food restaurant that is popular for its yellow arches. I was a barista, and honestly, my advice is don't work there. That's not good. I had a 7 to 10 p.m. shift, so it was short and I was by myself. This particular restaurant had a counter and kitchen on a separate side of the restaurant from the cafe, where you had to lean over the counter to see the other place if you wanted to. I was alone in the cafe, and the others couldn't see me unless they came over and looked through the cameras. We weren't busy, so I was doing my closing jobs when I heard a woman screaming inside. It was like she was screaming for help. This is a heavily populated area with no water chemicals to make this happen. I look around and don't see any customers concerned and assume I'm hearing things. This isn't unusual. I haven't been diagnosed with anything that can cause this, but often when I'm alone I hear things like footsteps that aren't actually there. I have never heard voices in my life, but considering no one else was concerned, I have a slight history of auditory hallucination as I shrugged it off and got back to work. I finished my packing job, so I started polishing the stainless steel cabinets on the counter. My back was facing the cafe entrance, and I was running the toaster when I heard a man's voice say sorry. I automatically turned to see an older, assuming co-worker behind me who was asking me a question or something, saying like sorry, Mom, no one was there. I stood up and checked over the counter to see if I had just overheard a customer talking and ordered it right behind me, but there were no customers in the store. The next morning, I was talking to my co-worker about how I was hearing things and told her what happened, laughing at myself. She didn't laugh, she looked a bit shocked. She told me that 2 of my managers had separately told her they had seen a ghost around the toaster. For a while, I thought the ghost must have played a prank on me and felt bad, so apologized. But I was telling my friend this story recently, and she said she never assumed he was apologizing for someone else's actions. Dude, I've had some weird experiences. One time, me and my best friend took pictures in his backyard for a school project. We were going to try to better ourselves in a different background, using paint or whatever. When I got home, he messaged me he was scared and had something to show me. The next day, he brought friends of 2 of the rich managers to school. You could see 2 girls vaguely in the background of one, then the same girl in a slightly different spot in the other. This was very early on, so Photoshop wasn't widely spread as it is today. First, I thought he was messing with me, but he was genuinely scared. He didn't want to go in the backyard again and deleted all those pictures. When I was a teen, me and my mom lived in a very old house in the city. It was narrow with lots of stairs. Going up the stairs, I always turned the light on and ran because I felt something following me. I know it's just a feeling, but I'm adding it in because in later appointments I had zero fear of it. It was that place. One night I couldn't sleep and I was tossing and turning. I was laying on my side and my sheets didn't fit me. Suddenly I felt something take my back. It was a gentleman quite in front of me. It felt like someone dropped a massive spider, which I thought because I had fear of spiders. I literally jumped out of bed so fast. My heart was racing. I was genuinely startled. Turned the sheets inside out. Nothing. Door closed. Window closed. I also had what I think was an out-of-body experience there. It was very similar to sleep paralysis, but the thing was, while I could feel myself laying on the bed not being able to move, I was also standing in my room looking at myself laying on the bed. 2 perspectives. The sweater was walking around, which was in fact closed, but day and age where there are more busts that are inside